We're going to be talking about sales tax, and sales tax is obviously a really important subject. It is one that you are going to need to do your own research, and I would highly recommend that you talk to your accountant or tax professional to make sure that you are covering all your bases and that you're doing everything that legally you're responsible for. What we're going to discuss here is just an overview of how tax works and what sorts of things you may want to think about. The first thing I want to talk about is just some basics in regards to sales tax. Here in the United States, 45 of our states require that you have a sales tax on merchandise that you sell. And that sales tax is passed on from the merchant to the buyer. We consider sales tax a pass-through tax because the merchant simply holds on to the taxes and then they give them to the state at a specified time. And that usually will either happen monthly, quarterly, or annually. The reason we have sales tax is that it's used to fund state projects. So these could be things to do with schools or roads or public safety departments, anything along those lines. Because each state has a certain bit of leeway in regards to sales tax administration, all of the states that levy a tax are going to have their own unique rules and laws when it comes to sales tax. And sales tax rates can vary by state and also by regions within the state. For instance, some states are going to require that you charge sales tax on shipping and others do not. Some states will require that you renew your sales tax permit periodically and others only make you do it one time. It's really important to make sure that you have the correct information in regards to tax. When you're selling goods online, you're going to collect sales tax in states where you have a sales tax nexus. A sales tax nexus is generally defined as a presence in a state. This presence needs to be significant enough so that a business has to comply with the state's sales tax laws. Presence can include things like an office, an employee, or a warehouse. If you have sales tax nexus in a state that requires sales tax collection, then you're going to be required to collect sales tax from all buyers in that state, regardless of where the item is shipped from. If you don't have sales tax nexus in a state, then you're not required to collect sales tax when you sell online to buyers in a state, regardless of where the item is shipped from. So common types of nexus are if you have a home or an office. So if you live and operate your business in a specific location, or if you live in a location and sell goods out of your house, then you need to comply and pay sales tax. If you have inventory in a third-party warehouse, but it's not in the location where you live, you still may have nexus in that state. There are three common ways in which nexus is determined. One is home state nexus. So if you live and run your e-commerce business in a particular state, then you have a physical presence in that state and you have sales tax nexus there. And therefore you're going to be required to collect sales tax from buyers in that particular state. The next option is employee nexus. So if you live and run your e-commerce business in a particular state, but you hire someone who lives in another state, now you're going to be operating out of one state, but you're going to have an employee in another state. You're going to have sales tax nexus in both of those states, and you need to collect sales tax from buyers in both of those states. The third option is inventory nexus. And inventory nexus has to do with if you have your store inventory that's housed in a warehouse in a state that's different from where you're actually doing business out of, then that is going to constitute sales tax nexus. So, for instance, if you live in California, but your inventory is stored in Washington because it's faster to ship out of there or something like that, then you have sales tax nexus in both of those states. Once you've determined where you have sales tax nexus, you're going to be required to do two things. You need to obtain a sales tax permit. This can also be referred to as a sales tax license for that particular state. And you're going to need to collect sales tax in that state. Most states consider it illegal to collect sales tax without a permit. So remember, if your business has a presence in a state, then you're required to comply with the state sales tax laws. You need to register your business, you need to collect the sales tax on all orders shipped to that state, and then you need to pay to the state what you've collected. So, as I mentioned, tax laws can be very complex. It's important that you make sure that you are informed into what you're responsible for as a merchant. In the next exercise, we're going to talk a little bit more about taxes in regards to WooCommerce, but please remember what I've told you in this movie and make sure that you do your homework before you actually start charging any sales tax.